The British monarchy is on the verge of its most explosive family war in decades, and at the center of it all stands Prince William, ready to do what many believe should have been done years ago. Sources close to Kensington Palace are now revealing that the Prince of Wales is actively pushing to strip Prince Harry, along with his children Archie and Lilibet, from the line of succession entirely. This isn't some distant possibility or tabloid speculation anymore. This is happening right now behind closed palace doors, and Meghan Markle is absolutely spiraling. Royal insiders claim William views this move as nothing short of essential for the monarchy's survival. He's watched his uncle Andrew drag the family through scandal after scandal, he's witnessed Harry and Meghan trash the institution on global television, and he's had enough. The future king has apparently drawn a line in the sand, telling those closest to him that you cannot reject royal duty, move to California, sign Netflix deals attacking your own family, and then expect to remain in the line of succession. It's hypocritical, it's damaging, and William believes it makes the entire monarchy look weak and confused. But here's where it gets absolutely explosive. King Charles is fighting back. The monarch is reportedly refusing to budge on this issue, creating a brutal rift between father and son that's now spilling into public view. Charles still sees Harry as his beloved younger son, the boy he raised, the man he desperately wants to reconcile with. William, on the other hand, sees Harry as a threat, a liability, and someone who made his choice the moment he got on that plane to America. Two completely different philosophies, two completely different visions for the monarchy's future, and only one of them can win. The stakes couldn't be higher for Meghan. If Harry loses his place in succession, their children automatically follow. Archie and Lilibet would go from being 7th and 8th in line to the throne to being nobody in particular, just regular kids with a famous last name. The entire foundation of Meghan's post-royal brand, the mystique, the connection, the implicit suggestion that her children are part of something historically significant. All of it crumbles overnight. Hollywood insiders are whispering that she's already in crisis mode, strategizing with her team about how to spin this if it happens. And William isn't stopping with Harry. Sources reveal he's also demanding the removal of Prince Andrew and pushing for financial ethics investigations into his own cousins, Beatrice and Eugenie. This is a complete reset, a total house cleaning, and the message is crystal clear. If you're not working for the monarchy, if you're not serving the people, if you're bringing scandal or cashing in on your royal connection, you're out. No exceptions, no special treatment, no more second chances. The war for the future of the British royal family has officially begun, and it's about to get very, very ugly. Prince William has spent years watching the monarchy get dragged through the mud by people who want royal privilege without royal responsibility, and he's done playing nice. Sources close to the Prince of Wales say his vision for the future is ruthlessly simple. A European-style stripped-down monarchy with absolutely no room for part-time royals, no space for scandal-prone hangers-on, and zero tolerance for anyone using their titles to make millions while contributing nothing. Harry is at the very top of his list, but he's far from the only target. According to palace insiders, William has been pushing his father relentlessly on this issue for months. He wants Harry gone from the succession. He wants Andrew formally removed and stripped of any remaining privileges. And here's the part that shocked even seasoned royal watchers. He's reportedly demanded financial ethics checks on his own cousins, Beatrice and Eugenie. William's team, filled with young, digitally savvy advisors, apparently sees the York sisters as a ticking time bomb. They're doing business deals, they have connections in questionable circles, and William refuses to let another Andrew situation develop on his watch. The catalyst for all of this? Harry's current position is 5th in line to the throne while living permanently in Montecito, California. To William, this is absolutely unacceptable. You have a man who's publicly stated that America is his home, who's admitted he's never moving back to the United Kingdom, who's sued the British government, who's trashed his family in a memoir and multiple television interviews, and yet he's still just a few tragic accidents away from potentially wearing the crown. William's argument to his father is blunt and unapologetic. You cannot trash the institution on Netflix and Oprah, pocket millions from tell-all books, raise your children as Americans, and then keep your place in the line of succession. It's absurd, it's hypocritical, and it makes the entire system look like a joke. Royal expert Robert Jobson, who has close ties to King Charles, recently went public with support for William's position. He pointed out that Harry has essentially rejected everything the throne represents. He doesn't live in the country, he's abandoned his duties, he's made it clear he never wanted the top job anyway, so why is he still sitting there in the succession? Jobson even raised the terrifying scenario that keeps William up at night. What if there was a catastrophic accident involving the Wales family? What if something happened to William and all 3 of his children? Harry would be king. A man who spent years calling the monarchy racist, outdated, and toxic would suddenly be expected to lead it. The absurdity of that scenario is is exactly why William is pushing so hard for change. But this isn't just about Harry. William sees this as a complete reset, a chance to finally modernize the institution by removing everyone who isn't committed to service. It's brutal, it's controversial, and it's tearing the royal family apart from the inside. King Charles is standing in his son's way, and the tension between them has reached a breaking point. Despite everything Harry has done, despite the interviews and the book and the constant attacks, Charles still sees him as his beloved younger son. Palace insiders claim the king is absolutely refusing to strip Harry of his succession rights, believing that doing so would slam the door on any possibility of reconciliation forever. Charles has apparently told those close to him that he's lived through family rifts before. He watched his own parents navigate scandals and separations, and he genuinely believes that love and patience can eventually heal even the deepest wounds. William thinks his father is living in a fantasy world. The philosophical divide between them couldn't be more stark. Charles believes in forgiveness, in keeping the family together at all costs, in giving people second chances and third chances and as many chances as it takes. William believes in accountability, in consequences, in protecting the institution even if it means cutting people off. One of them is a father desperately clinging to hope that his fractured family can be repaired. The other is a future king looking at cold, hard reality and making the tough decisions that need to be made. Both of them think they're right, and neither is willing to back down. And here's where it gets even messier. Reports emerged over the weekend that Charles invited Prince Andrew to a private Christmas lunch at Sandringham. Not to the public church service, obviously. That would be a public relations disaster of epic proportions, but to the private, behind-closed-doors family gathering, where no cameras would be present. William was so furious about this decision that he reportedly refused to attend, choosing instead to spend the day at Anmer Hall with Catherine and the Middleton family. For the third year in a row, William skipped his father's Christmas lunch. Let that sink in for a moment. The heir to the throne would rather be anywhere else than sitting at a table with his father, if Andrew is going to be there. Sources claim there have been screaming matches behind closed doors at Sandringham. William apparently confronted his father directly, asking how he could possibly justify protecting Andrew while the man's scandals continue to haunt the family. Charles's response, according to insiders, was that Andrew is still his brother, that Christmas is a time for family, and that private gatherings shouldn't be dictated by public opinion. William shot back that this exact attitude, this refusal to draw firm lines and enforce consequences, is precisely why the monarchy is in such a precarious position in the first place. The heartbreaking reality is that Charles is battling terminal cancer. He may not have many Christmases left, and yet his own son, the man who will one day be king, is so disgusted by his father's choices that he won't even sit down for a meal with him. That's not just a family rift, that's a complete breakdown of trust, respect, and shared vision for what the monarchy should be. If you want to understand just how deep this rift goes, look no further than Christmas at Sandringham. For the third consecutive year, Prince William has made the decision to skip his father's Christmas lunch, and this time the symbolism is impossible to ignore. Royal reporter Tom Sykes broke the story over the weekend, confirming what many had suspected but nobody wanted to say out loud. William and his family will show up for the 11 o'clock church service on Christmas morning. They'll smile and wave for the cameras like dutiful royals, but the moment that public obligation is fulfilled, they're retreating to Anmer Hall. No cozy family lunch at the big house, no afternoon games and traditions, no pretending that everything is fine when it very clearly is not. A source close to the king tried to downplay the significance, insisting that William is obviously invited and obviously free to do his own thing without anyone being remotely upset. But that statement is laughable on its face. Of course people are upset. Of course this represents a problem. The future king is publicly distancing himself from his father during what should be the most important family gathering of the year. That's not normal, that's not fine, and it definitely sends a message. Royal expert Tom Sykes described the situation as a deep personal rift that has been exacerbated by Charles's determination to keep including people like Andrew and his daughters in formal royal events. William's team sees this as weakness, as Charles prioritizing his personal feelings over the good of the institution. They believe the king is so desperate to keep everyone happy, so determined not to be the bad guy, that he's making decisions that will ultimately damage the monarchy's reputation for decades to come. And William has apparently decided that if his father won't draw boundaries, then he will draw them himself, even if it means skipping Christmas. The really devastating part of all this is the context. King Charles is 76 years old and fighting incurable cancer. Nobody knows how much time he has left. This could genuinely be one of his last Christmases, and his eldest son, the person he spent his entire life preparing to take over, would rather spend the day with the Middletons than sit at his table. Some people will read that and think William is being cruel and cold. Others will argue he's simply refusing to enable dysfunction anymore, that he's setting boundaries like any healthy adult should. But either way, it's absolutely heartbreaking. And here's the kicker. Multiple sources now claim that the Middleton family, Carol, Michael, Pippa, James, the whole crew, will likely be at Anmer Hall for the festivities. William is choosing his wife's family over his own father. that decision speaks volumes about where his loyalties lie, where he feels safe, and where he believes he can actually celebrate the holiday without drama, tension, and the constant presence of people who represent everything he's trying to move away from. Meghan Markle is watching this entire situation unfold from Montecito, and sources say she's absolutely panicking. Because here's the thing that nobody in the Sussex camp wants to admit out loud. If Harry gets stripped from the line of succession, Archie and Lilibet automatically go with him. They don't get to stay in line while their father gets removed. The entire family falls together, and suddenly those two children go from being 7th and 8th in line to the British throne to being just regular American kids with a famous last name. The titles, the mystique, the entire royal connection that Meghan has built her post-royal brand around, all of it evaporates overnight. Think about what that means for her. Every single business venture she's launched since leaving the royal family has relied on that implicit connection to royalty. American Riviera Orchard, her lifestyle brand, trades heavily on the fact that she's a duchess married to a prince whose children are in the succession. Her Netflix deals, her podcast that crashed and burned, her constant appearances at high-profile events, all of it is predicated on her being adjacent to the throne. Take that away, and what is she? A former cable television actress who married into a family, caused chaos, left, and is now trying to sell jam in Montecito. That's not the story she wants to tell, and it's definitely not the brand she's trying to build. Hollywood insiders are whispering that Meghan is already in damage control mode. She's reportedly been having urgent strategy sessions with her public relations team, trying to figure out how to spin this if it actually happens. Does she play the victim and claim they're being punished for speaking their truth? Does she pretend she never wanted the titles anyway and frame it as liberation? Does she go on the attack and accuse the royal family of racism and cruelty? Every option has risks, and none of them are particularly appealing. But here's what's really eating away at her. This was never supposed to happen. When she married Harry, she thought she was marrying into permanent relevance, permanent status, permanent protection. She believed that no matter what happened, no matter how bad the relationship with the family got, the titles and the succession would always be there. They were supposed to be untouchable, guaranteed, locked in. The idea that William could actually convince his father to strip all of that away, that wasn't part of the plan. That scenario was never on the table, and now it's not just possible, it's looking increasingly likely. Rumors are swirling that Meghan is putting pressure on Harry to make some kind of peace with his family before it's too late. Not because she's suddenly interested in reconciliation or healing or any of that, but because she needs to protect the brand. She needs those titles to stay intact. And if that means Harry has to swallow his pride, apologize, play nice for a few photo opportunities, then sources suggest she's willing to push him in that direction. Desperation makes people do interesting things. To truly understand why William is so absolutely determined to clean house, you have to look at Prince Andrew. Because Andrew is the cautionary tale, the perfect example of what happens when a monarchy refuses to enforce consequences and accountability. William watched his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, pay out millions of pounds to settle a lawsuit on Andrew's behalf. He watched the palace bend over backwards to protect a man who had brought nothing but shame and scandal to the institution. And he has apparently vowed that he will never, ever let something like that happen again on his watch. The parallels between Andrew and Harry are impossible to ignore, and William sees them crystal clear. Both men are younger sons who grew up in the shadow of the heir. Both felt entitled to royal privilege without wanting to do the actual work. Both made increasingly reckless decisions that damaged the family's reputation. Both eventually found themselves living away from the public eye, one hiding at Royal Lodge, the other building a life in California. And both have been protected, enabled, and shielded from real consequences by family members who prioritized personal feelings over institutional integrity. William's fury over the Andrew situation goes deeper than most people realize. Sources say he was absolutely livid when his grandmother decided to pay that settlement. He understood why she did it. She was a mother protecting her son. She was 96 years old and dying. She wanted to close the chapter before she passed. But William believed then, and believes now, that paying out millions sent exactly the wrong message. It told the world that if you're royal enough, if you're connected enough, you can buy your way out of accountability, and he refuses to let that precedent stand. Palace insiders claim William views Harry and Andrew as fundamentally the same problem, just different versions of it. Entitled men who want the perks of royalty, the protection, the status, the platform, without any of the responsibilities or constraints. Andrew wanted to cash in on his connections and do business deals with questionable people. Harry wanted to go to Hollywood, sign mega deals with Netflix and Penguin Random House, and trash his family for profit. Different methods, same selfish motivation, and William is done tolerating either of them. His message to his father has reportedly been blunt and uncompromising. Enable this behavior now and you destroy the monarchy later. Let Harry keep his place in the succession while living in America and selling out his family, and you set a precedent that will haunt the institution for generations. Let Andrew continue to lurk around the edges, showing up at private lunches and family gatherings, and you tell the British public that consequences don't apply to royals. William apparently told Charles directly that he watched what protecting Andrew did to their mother's legacy, and he will not let the same thing happen to his own reign. The question now is whether Charles will listen, or whether he'll keep choosing his heart over his head, his sons over his subjects, and hope over reality. When Robert Jobson speaks about the royal family, people pay attention. This is a man who has covered the monarchy for decades, who broke the news of Charles and Camilla's engagement before anyone else, who has deep, trusted sources inside the palace walls. He's not a tabloid gossip merchant, he's a serious royal correspondent with genuine access. So when he went on the Daily Tea podcast and publicly backed the idea of removing Harry, Archie, Lilibet, and Andrew from the line of succession, jaws dropped across the royal watching community. Because Jobson doesn't say things like that casually, and he definitely doesn't say them without having a pretty good sense of which way the wind is blowing inside the palace. His argument was simple, direct, and devastating. Harry has rejected the throne. He's trashed his family repeatedly in public. He lives abroad permanently. He's made it abundantly clear that he has no intention of ever returning to royal duties or to the United Kingdom in any meaningful way. So why on earth, Jobson asked, should he remain in the line of succession? It makes no sense. It's illogical, it's confusing to the public, and it creates a genuinely dangerous situation where someone who openly despises the institution could theoretically end up running it. Jobson even walked through the nightmare scenario that keeps royal advisors up at night. What if there was a terrible accident? What if something catastrophic happened to William and his 3 children? Under the current system, Harry would be king. A man who has spent the last several years calling the monarchy racist, toxic, and trapped would suddenly be expected to lead it. He'd be head of state for the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. He'd be Supreme Governor of the Church of England. The absurdity of that scenario, the sheer impossibility of it actually working, is precisely why the line of succession needs to be clarified and cleaned up immediately. And Jobson didn't stop with Harry. He explicitly named Archie and Lilibet as needing removal as well. These are children who have been raised in California, who barely know their British family, who have been kept away from royal life entirely. The British public has never met them. The working royals don't have relationships with them. They are, for all practical purposes, American children with a complicated family history. Why should they be in line to inherit the British throne? What possible justification exists for keeping them there? The fact that Jobson felt comfortable saying all of this publicly is significant. Royal correspondents with his level of access don't typically go rogue and start proposing massive constitutional changes unless they have reason to believe those ideas are already being discussed seriously behind closed doors. When he speaks, he's often channeling palace thinking, floating trial balloons, testing public reaction to ideas that are being considered at the highest levels. And the message here is crystal clear. The establishment is turning against the Sussexes. The tolerance has run out, the patience has expired, and change is coming, whether Harry and Meghan like it or not. The British public has spoken, and they're not holding back. Poll after poll shows massive support for removing both Harry and Andrew from the line of succession. We're not talking about slim majorities or divided opinion here. We're talking about overwhelming numbers, sometimes as high as 70 or 80% of people saying that these men have no business being anywhere near the throne. The people have watched the scandals, they've listened to the complaints, they've seen the lawsuits and the tell-all books, and they've reached a verdict. Harry made his choice when he moved to California, and that choice should come with consequences. What's fascinating is how quickly the public perception shifted. There was a time not that long ago when Harry was one of the most beloved members of the royal family. People adored him. They saw him as the cheeky prince, the wounded boy who lost his mother too young, the soldier who served his country, the guy who seemed genuine and relatable. But that goodwill has completely evaporated. Now when people think of Harry, they think of a man who abandoned his duty, married someone who caused chaos, and then spent years complaining about how hard his privileged life was. The sympathy is gone, replaced by frustration, and frankly a lot of anger. And here's the thing that really sealed it for most British people. Harry's security lawsuit against the UK government. He sued his own country, argued that Britain was too dangerous for him to visit, demanded taxpayer-funded protection while living in a Montecito mansion, and lost spectacularly. That case proved to millions of people that Harry doesn't see the United Kingdom as home anymore. He sees it as hostile territory, a place he needs protection from, somewhere he'd rather not be. So the public's response has been simple and logical. If you don't want to be here, if you think we're dangerous and awful, then why should you be in line to rule us? It doesn't make any sense. Social media has absolutely erupted with support for William's vision of a clean slate monarchy. People are praising him for having the courage to make tough decisions, for prioritizing the institution over personal feelings, for understanding that you can't run a modern monarchy like it's some kind of family therapy session where everyone gets unlimited chances. The hashtags, the comments, the discussions, all of it overwhelmingly backs William's position. Remove Harry, remove Andrew, strip it all back to the working royals who actually show up and do the job. Even royal commentators who spent years defending Harry, who gave him the benefit of the doubt through the Oprah interview and the Netflix series and the memoir, have started switching sides. They're admitting that enough is enough, that you can't keep making excuses for someone who clearly has no interest in being part of the institution. The tide has turned, the narrative has shifted, and Harry is on the wrong side of it. William isn't fighting public opinion on this. He's riding a massive wave of support, and that gives him serious leverage in his battle with his father. If William gets his way and Harry is formally removed from the line of succession, the consequences for the Sussexes are absolutely catastrophic. Their entire identity, everything they've built their post-royal lives around, crumbles overnight. Because let's be brutally honest about what Harry and Meghan have been selling for the last 4 years. They're not selling their talent or their ideas or their work ethic. They're selling proximity to the throne. They're trading on the fact that Harry is a prince, that their children are technically in line to be king or queen someday, that they have this mystical connection to one of the world's oldest and most famous institutions. Take that away and what's left? Think about how Harry introduces himself, how he's introduced at events, how his name appears on projects. It's always Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, fifth in line to the British throne. That's the selling point. That's what makes him interesting to Netflix, to book publishers, to event organizers willing to pay 6 figures for a 20-minute speech. Nobody's paying those prices for Harry Windsor, former working royal who quit his job and moved to California. The value is entirely in the title, the status, the connection. Remove that, and he becomes just another celebrity with a famous last name and a complicated family situation. For Meghan, the damage is even worse. Her entire American Riviera Orchard brand, her lifestyle empire that she's desperately trying to build, relies completely on her being the Duchess of Sussex married to a prince. She's not Gwyneth Paltrow, who built Goop on the back of an actual Hollywood career. She's not Martha Stewart, who spent decades becoming an authority on homemaking before launching products. Meghan's whole pitch is, I'm royal adjacent, so buy my jam and my dog biscuits and whatever else I decide to slap my logo on. If Harry loses his succession rights, that pitch falls apart. She becomes a former cable actress who married well, caused drama, and is now trying to sell overpriced products in Montecito. That's not a billion-dollar brand. That's barely a sustainable business. And then there are Archie and Lilibet. These kids were supposed to grow up with this incredible legacy, this connection to history, this sense of being part of something bigger than themselves. Instead, they'd just be regular wealthy kids in California with a weird family backstory. No titles that mean anything in practice, no role in any ceremonies, no place in the system. Some people might argue that's actually better for them, that it frees them from pressure and expectations. But it's definitely not what Meghan envisioned when she walked down that aisle at Windsor Castle. The cruel irony in all of this is almost poetic. Harry spent years complaining about being trapped, about wanting out, about hating the constraints of royal life. He wrote an entire book about how much he resented his role, and now that role might actually be taken away from him. And suddenly it becomes clear that he wanted the option to leave, not the reality of being pushed out. There's a massive difference between walking away on your terms and being erased. This battle is far from over. In fact, it's really just getting started, and it's going to define William's reign before he even wears the crown. Because what we're witnessing right now is a fundamental clash of values, a war between two completely different visions for what the monarchy should be. On one side, you have King Charles, clinging to the belief that family comes first, that love and patience can heal any wound, that excluding people permanently is a mistake he'll regret forever. On the other side, you have Prince William, cold-eyed and determined, arguing that the institution must come before individuals, that accountability matters more than feelings, and that protecting the monarchy's future requires making brutal decisions today. Charles is caught in an impossible position. He's a father who loves both his sons, even though one of them has spent years publicly attacking everything Charles has dedicated his life to. He's a king who wants to leave behind a legacy of reconciliation and compassion, not division and bitterness. But he's also watching his eldest son, the man who will inherit the throne, openly defying him, skipping family gatherings, and making it clear that he has zero respect for his father's approach. Charles has to choose. Does he strip Harry of his succession rights to repair his relationship with William and save the monarchy's reputation? Or does he refuse, hold firm on his principles, and risk losing both sons in completely different ways? William has already shown he's willing to fight this battle publicly. Skipping Christmas lunch 3 years running isn't subtle. It's a statement, a very deliberate message that he will not enable dysfunction or pretend everything is fine when it clearly isn't. He's telling his father, the public, and the institution itself that when he's king, things are going to be different. There will be boundaries, there will be consequences, and there will be no special treatment for people who bring scandal and chaos. That's the monarchy William wants to lead, and he's not waiting for his coronation to start implementing it. And then there's Meghan, watching all of this unfold from her Montecito mansion, realizing that her worst nightmare is becoming reality. The royal connection that she's built her entire post-royal identity around is slipping away. Expect the leaks to intensify. Expect the public relations warfare to escalate. Expect interviews, opinion pieces, carefully placed stories about how cruel the family is, how racist the institution is, how she and Harry are the real victims in all of this. Desperation breeds creativity, and Meghan is nothing if not creative when it comes to controlling narratives. The ultimate question hanging over all of this is simple but devastating. Will King Charles make the hard choice, strip the titles, and potentially save his relationship with William while protecting the monarchy? Or will he refuse, stand by Harry, and watch as his eldest son drifts further away, building a completely separate vision for the future that excludes his father's values entirely? One way or another, this family is about to fracture in ways that can't be repaired. The war has begun, and there's no peaceful resolution in sight. So what do you think? Does William have the right to push his father this hard, or is he being cruel and cold-hearted? Should Harry be stripped from the succession, or does he deserve to keep his place no matter what? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell, because trust me, this story is far from over. The next video is already waiting, and you absolutely won't believe what's coming next. The royal drama never stops, and neither do we.